The debate rages on over ways to manage the nation's deficit and slash Social Security. Those are still very much on the table, those ideas. When it comes to this benefit, it's important to separate the myths from the madness. So it's time for a reality check with Veronique de Rugy, a senior research fellow at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University. Veronique combs through the data and claims put out by the government to see what's missing from the big picture. She's been looking at the state of Social Security for us. So, Veronique, thanks very much for joining us. Let's start with the notion that citizens are entitled to Social Security benefits. Everybody feels like that, probably because a lot of people pay for them, right?
Well, we call it this way, and in fact, we pay for it. I mean, in fact, we've overpaid for the last 25 years, Social Security taxes that went into a trust fund. But the reality is not an entitlement. Congress can change the rule of what we will get at any time.
So it's not a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee. In fact, actually, if Congress right now doesn't do anything, in 2037, the benefits are scheduled to be slashed by 22%.
All right, so let's move on to one of the other myths. Myth number 2, let's go ahead and bring it up here. I believe is that, or a lot of people say Social Security isn't holding real assets. But here we have myth number 2. Trust funds will pay out benefits until 2037. Is that the case?
Well, so there are two things here. You have the reality is these are real assets that you have in the trust fund, but the money is gone. So when people pay Social Security, right? Some of it goes to pay for current retirees. The other one goes into the trust fund. By law, that money goes into Treasury bonds. So there's IOUs, that's real asset. But then what does the federal government do with it? It spends it on road, education, wars. The money is gone.
So it's not actually there.
Well, you have IOUs, but the money to back it up is not there. So in order to actually have Social Security pay full benefits past 2015, the federal government is going to have to tax people a second time, remember? And or borrow more money. So you can call it whatever it is. It is IOUs.
So what's this chart we're looking at? Because we've got projected Social Security deficit. So when we come into, what, 2015, I mean, the money's just not there.
So what's going to happen in 2015 is like the amount of taxes that people pay in a given year won't be enough to pay for all the benefits that are required to pay for current retirees. So in theory, the blue that you see on that chart is all the money that we've accumulated in order to be able to actually fill that gap. Except that this money has been spent, as I said, on wars, education, roads, and every daily spending. So in order to pay full benefits, the federal government will have to tax us or to go borrow more money, which is not good in the current context.
You know, Veronique, we talk so much about what's going on in Europe and all the austerity measures and how they're raising kind of retirement ages and so on and so forth. What about that? Because we've heard talk about that if we raise the retirement age here in the United States, that's going to hurt seniors.
Well, we have to remember the original intent of the program was to take care, back in 1935, to take care of the seniors who were too poor to take care of themselves, which I think is the right thing.
Not simply all seniors, everybody who reaches a certain age.
And think about it this way. Back then, the life expectancy was 58 years old, and the eligibility was 65 or 64, right? So basically, very, very, very few people were supposed to be on it. Now, fast forward to today, where seniors, all of them are getting it for, on average, 20 years. This is not the original intent of the program. There's good news, however, and that seniors are a way better place today than they used to be. Their net worth has increased by 80% in the last 20 years, and that's not income, but they're way better off. They have assets that they can sell.
Even though I think about the crisis, and for many people, their biggest asset is their house, so we know that lost a lot of value over the last couple of years.
But think about it. Seniors, I mean, they don't have kids to send to college, right? They've hopefully have savings. They've saved money. They do own their house, as opposed to the people who are working and still sending their kids to college. So I'm not saying everything is rosy for seniors. There's no way. And in fact, things have been tough for them too. But the great news is they used to be overly represented in the lower income class, and now they're overly represented in the top income class.
When we talk to people about cutting the budget deficit, some people say Social Security isn't a problem now. Do we see it becoming a problem going forward after 2015 because of the tax chart that we just looked at?
Well, I mean, it's not the biggest problem that we face, but it is certainly a problem because starting in 2015, as I've explained, you're going to have to borrow or tax people in order to pay the difference that we need to pay full benefits. And then if nothing happens, if still the same amount of people are getting, the people who are scheduled to be, benefits are going to be cut, right? So, it is a problem. It's not bankrupt, but it's broken for sure.
So what's your suggested fix? And I bring it up because we're talking about the deficit, and you've got the Deficit Commission coming up. Their proposals with Social Security obviously is a big component. Based on what you're seeing and how this plan is working out, what is the best course of action going forward with Social Security?
Well, I think one of the things that we need to do is to go back to the original intent of the program, which is to actually really take care of the people who can't take care of themselves, the people who are too poor and too old. But one of the things that we cannot do, considering the structure and the way the program is structured, is raise taxes. Why? Because you raise taxes, get more revenue, it hits the trust fund, and it doesn't actually produce future benefits. It produces spending today, which is our problem.
Right, which is not what it was set up to do, was it?
Which wasn't what it was supposed to do.
All right, thanks so much, Veronique, for joining us.